All right, when we last left our heroes, we basically were right on Apex here, all right? And the previous video talked about how to get on Apex. And I basically said, hey, go to the SQL workshop, and you went to the SQL workshop, and we were looking at these objects in the object browser. Now, there's a few other buttons we could be doing, and realistically, in this course, we're likely just going to be looking at this one. But slightly more advanced courses or whatever, we start heading into some of these other areas here. And we still may do that. So anyway, I'm going to click on SQL commands here, and we've got an interface. Now this interface looks a lot like the figure in chapter 3. So let's just bring up, I'm looking at figure 3.2. Figure 3.2 is basically this idea. They're showing it to you in Access, but I can show you some of this stuff right now just here in this Apex environment. So first of all, they did start with a query, and the query is select client num, client name, and balance from client, and they put the semicolon. So good for them. So a couple things to note. This is a select statement. The period ends a statement, just like most periods. Let me try it again. The semicolon ends the statement like most periods end the statement. This particular statement has got two clauses. It's got a select clause and a from clause. If I just run it right now, we'll see there's the output, which has got to be, reasonable. Okay, you can check that against your actual data. Notice, by the way, the data just comes out in the order that it is in the database, not necessarily the order is entered or anything like that. If you want to start controlling order, we do have a clause for that, and that's coming up. Also notice we're seeing the three clauses or three columns that we've basically asked for from client, and that's right up here. So the purpose of that particular image, though, was to sort of go through some of the bits and pieces. So let's just sort of put them side by side. And what we can kind of see here is this is the select clause. Good deal. SQL reserved words are, now, it says here they're written in uppercase. I could have written this in lowercase or title case. It's a convention to write your reserved words in uppercase. It's not necessarily mandatory, all right? We got our select clause and our from clause, and in the course I mentioned the idea that the select clause is actually the method of projection, which is what you kind of encountered when you did your relational algebra, all right? There's sort of some, there's a projection there, which I guess you could tie it back to that if you were going to look at that. Anyway, every command ends in a semicolon, and then there's your from. So that's kind of all I wanted to sort of show you from that particular page. And this is a good example of a simple retrieval. And what we get from that is we get our three columns. Let's get out of that. We get our three columns, right? Client. Now, this environment is only showing us 10 rows at a time. We would, in theory, also be able to download them as well. That'd be kind of cool, but we're not going to do any of that stuff at this point. We're just going to just simply show the columns. Now, I asked for 3 columns, and I got, the 3 columns. If I wanted to see everything, there's a shorthand way for that. I could go asterisk, select asterisk. If I go select asterisk, we can see there's all the columns, and the browser is doing its best to squish it all together to fit onto one page. It's not that hard at this point, but this would get harder. Notice how, as I expand and contract, it's really doing its best to basically try and keep it together. But anyway, so that's what the asterisk is all about. And that was kind of your figure 3.4, which basically gave us everything. Well, excuse me, one thing I noticed that they did different in the book is they actually went to tasks instead. So why don't I just catch that up a little bit. So there's tasks. Okay, so select asterisk. And honestly, this select asterisk is one of the most common things people do in a database when they're doing some retrieval. So, all right, most of the time though, you typically want to restrict. We want to restrict. So if I go back to clients for a minute here, clients, and I do this is basically asking a question, except you got to spell client right. This is basically asking the question, show me everything in the client's table. Now, if I only want to have the client's name, these are a list of my client names. And honestly, that would be a reasonably decent query to run at some point. You'd actually be able to tell, depending on how you did it, you'd be able to tell how many clients you had and everything. But here's the deal. What if you only want clients that are that have a credit limit of $10,000. Well, first thing you'd want to do is you want to say, okay, where is the client information stored? And you'd figure out that the client information was stored in the client table. Then you'd say, okay, what's the thing that actually has balance? There's balance. So what I probably want to do here is let's say where, so here's my restriction, where the balance, no, it's credit limit, where the credit limit was equal to $10,000. Now I'm going to just go, and let's bring up this particular figure. It's figure 3.7. So I'm going to go and grab figure 3.7. Let's just do a straight compare and contrast here. And I think I can zoom. Can I zoom? No, of course you can't. Can I zoom here? There I can. There's my zoom. And that's figure 3.7. That's the results, Grant. You want figure 3.6. All right. Figure 3.6. Awesome. There's figure 3.6. Move that over and minimize. All right. So let's look at the difference. First of all, what they did is they went to select client name. I said, give me everything. That's fine. That's trivial. The method of projection and basically saying, show me everything. Notice that they did put any spaces around the equals. The equals is what's called a logical operator, and I would definitely put spaces there to make it easier to read. This query is 3 lines. I could show you queries that are like 3 pages. And the better you get your SQL, the more you will appreciate it after like time has gone by and you've got to revisit it, or other people will get it. One thing I will tell you about this whole pandemic thing, as people are kind of winking in and out of existence right now, you cannot assume that you will be the one actually editing your code. So do yourself and the future people a favor and have decent standards. So this clause here is the method of restriction. This thing is the actual thing restricting the data. So it's basically asking, it says, get all the information from clients where the credit limit is this, and show me everything. That's kind of how that query actually ran. All right, cool. All right, so actually figure 3.6 had a pretty good set of the figure, really? 3.8, Grant. It's gonna be harder for me to do this. There it is. Those are your sort of comparison operators. Equals, greater than, less than, greater than or equal. Sorry, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Not equal is done both like this, but I'll tell you, almost every installation will use that as not equal. That's called bang equal, by the way, if you want to say that out loud. Or you can just say not equal. All right, cool. So we got that thing out of the way. Let's clear some of this out so I don't have to keep having it. And let's go on to the next area. So the next thing they wanted us to do, and this is now figure 3.9, is they wanted to basically say, hey, where the client number is 456. Now, the client number there, we actually saw that the client number was actually a character data. So I'm going to do what the book says first, but we're going to go a little bit beyond this. So we're going to go client number is equal to 458. And I'm going to just run it. All right, so there's basically our client number. But that's kind of a bit bogus because, again, it's kind of implying that numerical data has got to be in quotes. Well, client number isn't numerical, sadly, as we sort of saw in the previous thing. If you did a little search on it, not a search. If you looked at the structure, let's see if I can do that relatively easily here. Let's move you out of the way. Here's my workshop. I'm going to go to the browser, and I'm going to go look at client. So this guy here is a character string. If I'm going to show you a numerical thing, I'd rather show you a numerical thing and zoom in on balance. So if we look at balance here, balance is that. All right, so let's make this instead of client number, let's make it balance and put the balance in there. Notice I do not need quotes if it's numerical. If it's numerical, I don't need quotes. Now I could put quotes in, but that's a bad practice to do that. Numerical data should be numerical, character data should be character. Now, to go back to the previous example, where the client number is this, what I could have got away with actually having it as numerical, and it might even still work. However, this is also bad because what it did there is converted a character string to numerical, and you don't necessarily know how it converted it. So the big story here is that only use the single quotes for character data. Do not use it for numerical data. By the way, you can also use it for date data as well. That's your take home from that point. All right. They went on to basically say, hey, where the city's Easton and all that, and I don't really care. Let's look at something where where it's a non-equals. So here we're looking at clients. So I'm looking at basically figure 313, which is this one. So if you look at this guy, he's, help me out, there it is. We're basically going where the credit limit is greater than balance. So that's basically non-equality. So let's go back to here and go where the credit limit is. Now I'm using spaces because I want to do that. So a couple things that's kind of cool here. We got our non-equality, but we also have a column being compared to another column. Totally legit. You can have one column compared to another column. It makes perfect sense to me. So you can have where the credit limit is greater than a fixed number, or in this case, I'd call it a literal. Apparently nobody, by the way, nobody's got a credit limit greater than that. Or you can basically feed in another column. So in this case, it's asking the question, show me the clients whose credit limits are greater than their balance. Basically, who's still got stuff on their credit limit, which probably right now is almost nobody. All right. We start moving into something called compound conditions. And I'll probably do the compound conditions. And let me just have a quick, if I was smart, I would have planned this out. But that's, yeah, I think I'm just going to, I'll go right through compound conditions, and then we'll start to get to some funky ones. All right, so, so I'm going to figure 315. 315 is this dude, and what he's showing here is, again, just focus on the restriction really, where this and that, all right? So we're gonna basically make a compound condition where this and that. All right, and let's just do that. So this is coming from where? Tasks. Tasks, I'm deliberately keeping my projections as asterisks, by the way, because I'm interested to see what else is there. So where the category is equal to SOM, so it's a literal, so it's got to be in quotes. And now I indented just because I like doing that. You don't have to, but again, you want to make this thing easier for people to read. So I've added white spaces there, and I've indented. So I'm going to do this, and this query runs, and I get basically this. I get somebody in the category of SOM, which I guess means software manager, and where their price is greater than 150, so 200. So those guys are together. And you might want to think of it, it's very much like that, right, at this point. When you're using an and, these two are put together. The parentheses are obviously optional, but again, this makes it a little bit easier to read. Now that's an and. I could change this to an or. And now what I'm going to get is where the category is that, or the price is that. Obviously, we get a few more because we only got a couple with the categories of SOM. That would not have worked in the first run through, but it works now because at least they're an SOM, or they happen to have prices greater than 150. All right, cool. Now another neat one here. So that's sort of the ands and the ors. If you're looking, this was already done here. We're going to ask for all the software majors. So these are all the software majors, and that's great. But what if we want no software majors? Well, one option is to go where the category is not SOM, which is what they're showing here on figure 319. Another option, by the way, would be where to go to category is not equal to SOM. Those will likely be the same results. All right, so there's sort of like two there. Okay, so let's get to some, the not is kind of cool. A lot of times what you can do is you can say where it's not category, it's not this, and the price, what was it? Price was 150, I think. Come on, help me out here, man. The price is 150, was greater than 150. So we've already seen this query. Let's get the not out of there for a second. We'll just pull out the not. And I'm going to run it. So we've seen this query already. Now what I'm going to say is show me everyone that is not that. So one option would be, again, the parentheses are super important in this case. So this is basically showing me every row that isn't this row, basically. I'm going to go, and I get some results. Cool. All right. So I want to show you the between and the in, because those are also sort of examples of more sophisticated comparison. All right. So I'm going to say, hey, let's, where's our balances again? Let's get back to clients. I think client had the balance. So client, and I'm going to run it. All right. Okay, cool. And so we got ourselves some balances there. Now what I could do is I could say where the balance is greater than or equal to 1,000. That's going to get me all those balances. Now I also want and the balance is less than or equal to 5,000. That's pretty cool, but that's a lot of typing, because here's what I could do here. I could write that same query by basically saying where the balance is between, and I wouldn't need the equals there, between 1,000 and 5,000. All right, and I don't need line 4. So basically this guy simplifies that query quite a bit. And it's exactly the same. I mean, what happens is that the SQL is interpreted by the database. A little program is written to basically produce these results. This program would look exactly the same as the previous program would have, right? And I've done experiments and tested and all that kind of stuff, and it is exactly the same. They perform the same. They are translated to the same code. What's the benefit? The benefit is solely for you. The benefit is to basically make this thing more legible. SQL originally was for structured English query language. It was originally written for business analysts. So they definitely want to make it easier for us. Now the other one, which I guess would have been way in the future, but I want to bring it up now because they're about to talk about something else. We'll probably break right at this point and then do another one afterwards. But what if I want, I think everyone's in Florida, right? So let's go back to task for a second. So I'm going to go back to task, and I'm going to just run it. I think, by the way, it's tasks, I think, tasks. All right, you'll see that we got a bunch of different categories. We got the SOM and we got the OTH. So if I wanted to basically say, hey, show me the categories that are SOM or they are OTH, I would go where the category is equal to SOM or the category is equal to OTH. That would be one way I could do that. And I would get that, right? That's awesome. But another way to do that is to say where the category is in, and then in parentheses, okay, I see it closed it for me. That was nice, but I didn't want it closed. So I'm just going to go back over here, cut that out, paste it there, and this would be another one. This runs exactly the same way, but it's easier to read. If I wanted to add another guy, DRM was one of the other ones. I could go run, and now I got DRM. This is far more maintainable. So again, the between and the in are awesome. And they also all have a not version. So I can say not in, for example, and that basically would give me all the ones that are not one of these. This would have been kind of a sucky thing to write if I didn't know about the in, right? So, and the between would have been a sucky thing to write if I didn't know, If I said not between, that would have been also tougher to write. So there is one or two more I should really bring up. So let's go select asterisks from clients again and a client and see what we got here. So we've got nothing. That's interesting. It looks like all the data is populated, which is rather unfortunate. So what I might do is do some sort of example later, but because I need to show you basically the is null or is not null. But one thing I could do is I could show you the like, and that's a very important one for me too. So we're going to go with the client name here. What I want to do is I want to do some comparisons, and I want to basically look at names. Now, a lot of times this isn't really used for names. It's used for things like barcodes, phone numbers, things like that. You're looking for a piece of the string, and you want to basically look like, for example, pizza. I'm not sure what the client name is, but I know they had pizza in their name. So what I could do is I could go where the client name, I can't say is equal to pizza, because if I do that, nobody is actually equal to pizza. But what I could say is where it is like pizza. Now, in the world of SQL, this, by the way, still produces the same problem. Oh, actually, it's not mad at that at all. It's mad at the client name. Is an invalid identifier. Why is client name? It's client name. I think that's fine. I'm going to go copy here. Maybe I did the I before E thing. Anyway, there it is. Okay. So what I had there is no data found. Originally, I had the equals, and that is also going to be no data found. Nobody is like pizza. But what I could use is wildcards. So percentage and percentage. These are the wildcards that SQL uses. Why don't they use asterisks like other languages? Because asterisk is already up here, right? So asterisk already has got its context up here. It doesn't work down here. So if I go run, now I'm going to get this guy with the pizza, which is awesome. Now, let's imagine a slightly different scenario. I'm going to comment this out, by the way, just to run my example again. All right, I think I'm going to look for something with 2 in it. Still not going to be the best example, but anyway, looking for 2 in it. So if I put 2 and I go, doesn't come up. Oh boy, that's uncommented out. First of all, if I put 2 in it and I go, it's blank. But if I go and I put the percentage at the end, this is asking for anything that starts with 2. This, when I put the percentage, the wildcard around on both, it's asking for anything with 2 in it. And this is asking for anything with 2 in it, which of course has got nothing. So you might want to screw around with that a little bit and sort of get used to that, because this makes you very, very powerful when you're trying to retrieve data. And one other thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play with letters, and I'm going to quickly jump a bit here and do a character conversion. But let me show you something first of all. I'm going to go and make this thing client name, and quickly show you a function called lower. So look at that, by the way, I did it wrong again there. All right, so it's I before E except after C, and then a whole bunch of other examples. So anyway, if I do this, I got client name, lowercase client name converts everything to lowercase, right? So I just wanted you to see what that looks like. So if I go over here and I go lower, and I said where it's like, and I put percentage 2, oops, that should be in lowercase 2 percentage, all right? And I go, this should get me basically our 2 crafty cousins. Now what I want to do is I want to look for anything with an A in it. So I'm going to change this 2 to an A, I'm going to go run. So this is anything with an A in it. And you can see that they all pretty well got A's in it. Boy, I tell you, let's change this right now to basically say, give me everything, please. So I've just changed the row so I can see everything. All right, that's not particularly interesting. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to come up with somebody that's got letters in other spots. So S and S. S will be good. All right, let's look at S. This is anything with an S in it. So we got Hershey, Sean, I guess pasta, cousins. So to demonstrate that point previously, this is anything beginning with the letter S. This is anything ending in the letter S. Which is nothing, sadly, and then this is anything with S in it. Cool. But now let's show you the second part of this. I want to see everything where S is, what is that? 1, 2, 3. So 2 characters in. Well, how do you do that? An underscore will now ask me, you'll say, I don't care what the first character is, but the second character's got to be an S. This probably doesn't bring back anything. But if I bring back another underscore, what's happening is I get to see fisherman, because fish, the S there is the third one in. So the percentage and the underscores are kind of the learning points of this last little bit of this, and then I'm going to stop. The percentage is basically 0 to any number of characters, and underscore is 1 and only 1 character. Is that true in all relational databases? I don't know, but they all definitely have something like this. So you're going to want to look for that. Because again, most of the time what you're looking for is things like numbers or data inside data. So as I said, barcodes, social securities, phone numbers, even part numbers. There's a lot of information typically inside of the field, and you want to be able to rip out or splice out part of that information. So that's what that was about. All right, so I'm going to stop it now. I'm going to come back. I might actually have a null example when I come back, and then I want to talk about aliases and then some other more sort of sophisticated stuff. So until then, I would encourage you guys to sort of practice this and then be ready. Here we go. I'm stopping it now.